Okay.
Yeah. So today we're talking about barriers. We have to see them, right, before we can smash them. Barriers to learning. And I think we should get warmed up a little bit, like loosen up the brain. So there's this complex systems quote about structures being enabling or disabling depending on the circumstances and our perspectives. And let's remember that in this conversation today. So we're going to start with the table since we're sitting around it. Really, it's 2 tables, but we'll let that go. And where did this table come from? Did it pop out of a volcano, form on the bottom of a riverbed?
It was man-made.
Yeah.
Probably out of nothing that came from any of those places. Completely fake things.
Somebody thought of it, right? Table's been around for a while. Pretty good idea, right? So we've got sort of tools and crutches, like toys and weapons. We're going to talk about ways of seeing some of these things. This is a tool, right? Pretty good. What about this? What is this? This
Tool.
is a tool? It could be a tool. So, and when we talk about learning, we could say that we need tools for learning, right? We could also say maybe it just takes a couple of people who are honestly willing to learn from themselves and each other in this world, and all of the shit is just getting in the way, right? We could say that. But, you know, if we look at stuff, and if we were really hungry, or you really needed to survive, we could use everything in this room as a tool for doing that. We'd be super motivated, right? Yeah. And, you know, if we were little kids and we came in here, we could turn everything in here into a toy, right?
True.
It's like, man, this thing is shiny, it makes noise, you know? And how do kids do that? They use something, and we kind of grow out of it.
Your imagination.
Yeah, man, it's magic. And they, you know, kids don't even need the room, right? They could go outside and do the same thing. So we call it a table. I call it different things in different languages. Or people, we like to name things. We like to tell stories about things. Now, if we were enemies, real enemies, and we, you know, wanted to somehow defeat each other, we could use these things as weapons, right? Everything in here could be a weapon of opportunity, right? Even this thing, right?
Yeah.
It could be a weapon.
It could be a pretty effective weapon.
Yeah. And, you know, we could use those weapons to play the money game or the fake power game or various games that people play. And I think that, you know, again, this depends on the circumstances and our perspectives, right? If we were actors, everything in here would be a prop, right? Yeah. So, and I think we should remember that as teachers. So when we're identifying barriers to learning, you've got to sort of see these things as things and use them to learn, right? They're just things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and there are lots of different ways to structure this approach. I remember how boom. And this is just my way. It's not the right way. Like we can talk about different ways of doing this, right? So there's a lot of words up here. And my handwriting has always been horrible. It's not just because I'm blind. It's always been that bad.
It's incredibly straight.
Yeah, if you say so.
I'm telling you.
What matters really is the ideas behind those words, right? And that's what we're going to try to get at a little bit today. So when my twin sister and I were little, we would play in this creek, and we would like sort of put the rocks and build a little dam in the creek. Now what happens when we do that?
And water stops. Or has to find another way.
It finds another way. Right? Sometimes you can focus it and do like a little waterfall.
I never had much luck with damming rivers because water would just flow through it and stuff.
Yeah, you could try to focus it. kind of capture that generative potential somehow. But the river finds a way, doesn't it?
I like to do it in the sand castles and
Oh
little
yeah,
moat.
I totally used to make those like little drip castles and
Yeah.
stuff. And so before we get to what some of these words are, I want you to use your imagination. That's a thing. See the river through the chalkboard. And which way do you think it's going? Do you think it's going towards the goals or away from the goals?
Towards the goals, hopefully.
Yeah. Isn't that funny? Now, are the teacher's goals and students' goals, are those always the same?
No.
What happens when they're really far apart? What happens when a river spreads out? Is it
It's not very
speed
effective.
down, slow down?
Slows
Slow.
down.
Yeah. Why are those goals different? It's interesting. And you know, goals are like opinions, right? Everybody has them. We're not always aware of them. We don't always articulate them, but they're there, right? Opinions are like
Goals.
opinions are like
Things.
everybody has them. And you know, everybody has them, and they also think that theirs is the best, right? That
Yeah.
maybe, you know, they can't really see that place where it's the same as somebody else's. They're too focused on like this is my opinion, this is my goal. The goal is learning, really, right? And so, this perceive, appreciate, express thing that's up here. This is a process that I thought of years and years ago when my vision went pretty quickly. And I thought, as long as I can do these things, I can participate, I can learn. And then much later, I sort of found out that we have these neural networks, right? We've got recognition, effective with an A, and strategic, right? And it sort of resembles each other. It's a funny thing about like nested systems, they kind of reflect each other. But you know, neural networks, it's complicated, let's not worry too much about it. Representation, engagement, action and expression, these are sort of outlining a human interaction system, right? We represent things like the chocolates. And we have this process of being engaged in something, and then we do something about it, right? Or express it in some way. And I put adapt and accommodate up here because this process needs to be flexible, right? In some way. And we'll get into the inclusive design for learning guidelines and principles and stuff later, but this is what's important right now. And there are different ways of thinking about this, and my way certainly isn't the right way or the only way. Now, close your eyes. No peeking. Blind girl with chalk, this is a great idea. Look out. Okay, I'm writing something on the board. Still no peeking.
Sounds like you're drawing big circles or something.
Using those ears.
Trying.
Now, still don't look. Do you see what I've written?
No.
Of course.
My eyes are closed.
It's
It must be a
9:50.
glitch in the system, right? My representation is so limited right now. There's a barrier, right? Now I can tell you that the question is why. You can open your eyes.
Okay.
Why? But really the question is how, right? And what's getting in the way? And what do we do about it? And so if we can't perceive something, can we appreciate it?
No.
No. We have to open up this representation side of things a little bit so that people can engage, so that they can act and express on some kind of level. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to brainstorm barriers that get in the way of this and see if we can start to recognize them in our classrooms and our educational systems. And we can look around this classroom, but we can also look in our heads right at the other classrooms that we've been in. And we can pause the video here.
Okay.
We'll turn it back on when we're done with the learning game. Let's go, let's go.
Okay.
What do we
Started
got?
it.
What's getting in the way?
My bags.
Things.
Well, first, we just kind of talked about how, first to recognize barriers, you walk in and observe. So you
Observe.
See what you can see,
Notice.
or can't see,
Right.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Uh,
See yourself in all of those kids with diverse abilities, whether they're obvious or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One of the big barriers that we came up with was inflexibility. People have, there's a lot of things with classroom design that give people trouble.
Right. Yeah. And stuff is bolted to the floor, right?
Right.
Yeah. We can't move it around. We can't get it out of the way when we need to. Look at our geology labs, you know? These labs are just, they can move.
Yeah.
What else?
Limitations of assessments.
Okay,
So-
tell me more.
So you'd have pencil paper, take a test. Gina, take a pencil paper test.
Yeah, you hand me a piece of paper, I'll make a paper airplane, that's about it.
So
And tell me what we're limiting when we
So,
limit assessment.
perceptibility, we're imperceptibility, we're giving the, well, and that goes with limited representation too, the perceptibility of the information,
Right,
inaccessible documents.
yeah. And we don't know what we don't know, right?
Right.
Yeah, problems. What else?
Limited representation can be a problem. A lot of folks, you know, the same material can have trouble reaching different people.
Mhm.
So,
Great.
Time constraints,
Oh, big one. Yeah,
50-minute class,
yeah, 50-minute exam,
50-minute exam, yeah.
yeah.
limits of clarity can be a problem. It's hard to make yourself understood under the best of circumstances.
Yeah,
So, and a big part of that is organization.
unclear goals, unclear expectations, right?
Mhm.
Problems.
Yeah.
What else?
Intolerance for error,
Good, it goes with the limited assessment, right?
yeah, so.
No room to screw up, no
Yeah.
room to learn from screwing up. Problems.
I think going with fluids of clarity is ambiguity also.
Yeah, that's kind of in that same little
Yeah.
family of crap getting in the way.
And I guess language kind of fits in with clarity as well.
Yeah,
And this isn't just talking about like people from other countries that speak an entirely different language as their first language, but also it's just difficult to communicate with people generally.
yeah. Communicating is hard.
And the
Yeah.
language of the discipline, language of the discipline is
Yes,
different and
we
technical.
have
and-
these lexicons, this jargon,
Yeah.
right? We need it, right? Towards the crutch.
That's why we offer entire degrees in communication, right?
It's amazing, they get out of there, they still can't communicate. Did we hit everything?
Did we get,
We didn't get interactivity, I think.
Oh, we need that, right?
It's difficult to be engaged in the subject matter without interactivity.
Yeah,
So,
we got
and that
it.
helps motivation too.
yeah,
Yeah,
lack of motivation, assumptions, misconceptions, even within ourselves.
yeah,
Assuming you learn one way, but then you find out you don't actually learn that way.
are we actually learning anything, right?
Yeah.
Good. I think you guys nailed it. Yeah, anything else to add?
Mm,
Of course we're missing stuff, we're always
Yeah.
missing stuff, right? But I think this is excellent.
Well, we haven't got really, I mean, we touched on it, I guess, assumptions is the social, like, stigma
Yeah.
attached to, and maybe saying, yes, I have a learning disability, or I have a hard time taking a test in the allotted time.
Right, we don't wanna come out of our diverse abilities closets
Mhm.
and admit that we have strengths and weaknesses. We don't like weaknesses. We wanna hide them, right? And so that stigma it's a big barrier. And it's part of why we have this communication breakdown. The student's afraid to talk to the teacher, and the teacher's afraid to ask the student. Good. Okay. I think we got the important stuff.
All right.
Is that hard?